Hey, what's going on, No Nation? It's CJ Wilson here with DoakTalk, here to bring you guys some breaking news on this Sunday evening. Four-star offensive lineman Chastan Brown has committed to FSU. So hats off to Mark Norvell and of course Gus Malzahn and Herb Hand for landing the four-star commit out of Georgia. I want to give a shout out to those guys for sure. Before we get into the video and get into the meat of everything, make sure you guys like this video and subscribe to the channel. Go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to the DoakTalk community if you haven't already. If you guys looked at our previous video in regards to this weekend, this was the official visit weekend for Chastan Brown, and he ended up deciding to commit to the Noles right after the visit. So a really good weekend for FSU on that front. And just to kind of give you some history in regards to Chastan Brown and what he brings to the table, he was committed to UCF and Gus Malzahn and Herb Hand prior to Gus Malzahn resigning and taking the FSU job, and Herb Hand following shortly after. Once he decommitted from UCF, rather, he didn't decide to commit or make any decisions for the December signing period. Wanted to take visits and things like that. Ended up committing to FSU, and on his visit, it's crazy because he elected not to sign in December and decided to sign in February, but didn't take any visits anywhere else but to FSU. Only really entertained FSU throughout the process. So that kind of shows you that he was really tied in and locked in with Gus Malzahn and Herb Hand pretty much all along throughout this process after decommitting from UCF. So I like to take a lot as far as for FSU. He's 6'7", 270 pounds. Now, as far as development and things like that and playing right away, I do think he is a few mango seasons away, and I'd probably say 3 years at the very least, to where he could probably compete for FSU, which isn't a bad thing. I think as far as this 270 frame, he needs to get in. He gets built by storms a little bit, and also get to the nutrition table and beef up and eat everything that FSU has to offer. With this 6'7" frame, I do think the 270 to add to that wouldn't be an issue, and he'll be able to carry he'll be able to carry 300 pounds without any issues, in my opinion. And the reason why I say it's not a big deal as far as that, we've seen the counter effect, so to speak, of playing guys too early when they shouldn't be playing, as far as development and things like that on the offensive line position for FSU in past years. And those guys had to play because they're pretty much the best options, a la Rob Scott, Darius Washington, Maurice Smith. Those guys pretty much played very early during their tenures for FSU when they really shouldn't have, due to lack of talent, lack of depth for FSU in the first place, and they weren't really able to develop and things like that. And I think that kind of cost those guys late in their career and things like that. If you look at Darius Washington, look at Rob Scott, two guys that were kind of plagued by injuries throughout their career at FSU. And I do believe playing too early and not really getting a chance to develop at that point in time was one of the reasons for all of those rash injuries for Darius Washington and Rob Scott. Now you bring in a guy like Chastan Brown, who could just come into FSU, develop, get his body physically ready to play offensive line in around 3 years or so. We'll see what the chips may lay. Just to kind of close out this 2025 recruiting class from the offensive line standpoint, Coach Herb Hand was able to hold on to a four-star commit, Mario Nash, offensive tackle, three-star offensive tackle Sean Perrette. Both of those guys did sign with FSU. And also three-star center Chavis Thompson. This is another guy that recently committed to FSU after the December period. Hasn't signed officially yet. That doesn't happen until, of course, the National Signing Day in February. But he did commit to FSU, was committed to FIU prior, and Oregon prior to that for the center position. Physical kid, was a state championship with Coco this past year. So you add those guys along with Chastan Brown, a pretty good offensive line class, especially for a, how can I put this? Just like a transition class, so to speak, even though it's not a new head coach, but you get a new offensive coordinator, new offensive line coach. Herb Hand is pretty much a few months on the job, and he was able to land these four high school prospects to sign with FSU. Now, FSU will try to put a bow on a 2025 class as a whole, as they're still in the works for one more potential prospect, and that's four-star defensive end Zaire Mathis out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So they're still trying to add a few more pieces to that 2025 recruiting class before we add a complete bow on it going into the February signing period within a week or so. So make sure you guys lock in with DoakTalk. We'll have all the news coming for you hot and ready. Like I said, like this video, subscribe to the channel. We will have a few clips of Chastan Brown's huddle, just to give you guys a preview and I guess you could say an overview of what we have coming to FSU in Chastan Brown and what we have to work for in her hand to develop. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, go know.